Hi, welcome to my final reflection video for the MET portfolio. This is Dan Vandenhavel. Let's start by talking a little bit about myself. I live in Hailey, Idaho, also known as Sun Valley, and I teach science at Wood River High School. So I just finished my third year teaching there. I'd also taught for 2 years at High Brighton High School in Lenore, North Carolina, and for about 7 years in outdoor education with the National Outdoor Leadership School. I did my undergraduate work at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I majored in conservation biology and in English, and then did my teacher licensure in 2006 through Western Carolina University, and then began the MET program in 2011. So it's been 4.5 years, and really looking forward to finishing up this chapter and moving on. I also have a family, my wife Kat, my daughter, and my son. The pictures are a little outdated there, but Seneca is 5.5 and Tripp's 3.5 now. So they've been on this journey with me most of the way. The purpose of this video is to provide a summary of my learning, to reflect on the experience as a whole and talk a little bit about how it's influenced my classroom practice, and then also discuss some of the opportunities and challenges. So if I had to distill what I've learned down into just some big ideas, these are listed here. One is just about student-centered teaching. It's an idea I hear a lot about, but the question is really, how do you do it? And what is it really? Because people have a lot of different definitions. So I think this program has given me some really great ideas, thinking about inquiry, thinking about project-based learning, thinking about, how do we put students in the driver's seat, help them take ownership of their learning and so forth. Secondly is the importance of vision and planning in the use of technology. My school went one-to-one Chromebooks last year, and there's really not been very much discussion, certainly within my department, of how we're using that technology and what we really hope the goals are. So, that's something I recognize that we need to do, and hopefully I can help facilitate those discussions and make that happen. Thirdly is just more comfort in designing and producing different sorts of multimedia tools. Whether that's videos or websites or whatever. In this program, I definitely gained a lot of experience using online tools and becoming comfortable with that, as well as just understanding how to design them well. Technology is a powerful tool, but it needs to be used appropriately. And so again, this program's helped me think about, how do we actually use the technology? We have computers, but are we just using them to look up things online, or are we really using them to create content to maximize their potential? So some of the things that I think technology can be really powerful is reflection, helping students reflect on their work and get their work reviewed by peers and so forth. Differentiation, I'll talk about that a little more later, but different paths for different students as a research tool, an information source, and then also for assessment. I think the technology can be really helpful for assessing students in different ways and more frequently. Lastly then is just understanding the research basis for making these shifts. So it's not just something I think is a good idea, but there really is research to suggest that technology can make a difference, computers can make a difference, and shifting instructional methods can really make a difference in what students learn and how they understand the world. These are the artifacts that I'll discuss and talk a little bit about how each one fits with my classroom practice. So this is the Wind Chimes project-based learning unit that I developed in the summer before I actually taught physical science for the first time. So I took our unit on waves and thought, what can I do here to make this more applied, more relevant to students? And basically they learn about sound and waves and then use that knowledge to design and build wind chimes that raise awareness about hearing-related issues in our community. So here's some of the students working on those. I got the idea originally from a teacher at High Tech High, which is a project-based learning school that I came across in one of my other MET courses, so that was a nice connection. You can see them building away there and so forth. And then we also partnered with another organization called WOW Students, and through WOW Students we were able to raise over $5,000 to support Swiftshore Ranch, which is a therapeutic riding center in our community. So the students were able to not only learn about sound, but to produce something that was interesting and artistic, and on top of that to support an organization in our community. The project-based learning approach, I think, is really interesting, and one that I think I'd like to implement more. These are pictures of my basic biology students They're all ESL and special ed, and I've been working toward more projects with them because they really need to see that relevance and application piece. So you see these students, they're doing gel electrophoresis. I got a grant to get some biotechnology equipment and looking at how can I use that to develop a project-based learning unit on forensics, because that's something that they're really interested in, forensic science and criminology and so forth. Next is my digital literacy essay. This was valuable for learning about doing online research. I hadn't really written a paper like this in quite a while since I was an undergraduate and graduated from University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2001, so it had been quite a while, and just thinking about how to use all of these new online tools to organize information, to seek information, and so forth. The course used Zotero, but I tried Evernote and Digo and all kinds of different applications as I went through the process. So trying to teach students now how to do research, it's helpful to have an understanding myself of what some of the tools might be and what some of the needs might be. Also, it was interesting to learn a little bit more about the concept of literacy and how that's changing in the digital age. Even though I teach science, we're being asked to think about literacy and help students develop literacy skills, especially through the Common Core State Standards. So it was a really relevant experience. The other piece was that I was thinking during this paper a lot about how ideas were connected. The paper itself was about this theory of connectivism and how we can construct knowledge sort of communally or collaboratively in the digital environment. But it's really a process that students need to do individually as well. And so the paper kind of got me thinking more about how can I help students look at different resources and bring them together and integrate them in an effective way. And one way is through the use of interactive science notebooks. This picture is actually from a text on science notebooks, but think how do I help students physically map out their knowledge, think about how it connects together, much in the same way that networks work and ways that we use the internet to seek out knowledge today. I developed a nanotechnology unit. A couple things here that were really helpful. One is just familiarity with making the graphics and the website. So I designed the website in Dreamweaver and created the graphics using different Adobe software. I hadn't used those before, and it was a good learning experience. And it is really helpful to have some knowledge of how the technology works. Secondly, this was my really first opportunity or attempt to put instruction online. And that's something that I see myself doing more and more as I go forward, because I think there's a lot of benefits to providing an online structure, even in a face-to-face classroom. The nanotechnology unit was structured around these essential questions, again, kind of like a project-based learning approach, or at my school we have the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program, which uses what they call inquiry questions. So again, thinking about how do we get students to think at that higher level, to connect their knowledge together to larger ideas. And these driving questions can be really powerful for doing that. Some of the other pages, again, using a variety of resources from the internet and thinking about how to structure them so that students can learn. The nanotechnology unit also made me think a little bit about exploring the atomic scale and thinking a little bit as well about how to kind of use models to make concepts real. So these are DNA nucleotides that I created with my biology classes a couple years ago. Thinking about representing these molecules in this large format, and it was really a great tool for talking about how DNA works and talking about genetics to have it there, as well as just being kind of visually interesting. So anyway, that was a small connection, but one I thought worth noting. Next is my online module on data interpretation. Again, this is an opportunity for me to think about how do I structure instruction online. How do I put things online that students can use and learn from? And in this case, I used an established software program called Sophia, where basically you make these tutorials, which are these collections of materials related to a theme. So you can see this one's on data interpretation, has objectives there, has a little Google form as a pre-quiz or pre-survey so I could find out what students know and so forth. Had a hands-on lab, the Rolling Marbles lab, as well as an instructional video with the graphic organizer, a reflection piece at the end, a quiz, and so forth. So it's all sort of housed within this single frame, which I think can be really useful for students in a lot of ways. This last year I used Google Classroom quite a bit, which was more of a way to manage documents and things through Google Drive. But again, thinking about how did I present the information in this environment using this tool. Next year, I'm looking at using our learning management system. I don't really know that many teachers or any are using an LMS at my school, but now that we're one-to-one computers, it seems like we'd be moving in that direction. And I can see there would be potentially a lot of benefits to using it. And so I'm hoping through my piloting of the LMS this year, I'll be able to, talk to other teachers about the advantages and think about whether it's something that we might implement more broadly. There are elements with all this emphasis on online and technology. It is interesting because I definitely find that there are elements that you really just have to do in class, and where the dynamic is very different when you're doing these activities with other students. This is an inquiry type lab for science. Labs are definitely one example of that. Here's an example of a peer review process for a mapping project that I did with ninth graders last year. And where they're reviewing each other's work. Again, something you can do online, but has a different dynamic when you're doing it in person. And you can see they have a little sheet there with a variety of structured responses that they're giving to each other and trying to build that sort of sense of student ownership and self-evaluation. The paper, or my discussion board post on universal design for learning, was also one that stood out to me in that when I think about the promise of technology, particularly computers and the internet, and now that we're one-to-one at my school, it really is about being able to offer a variety of paths for students. There doesn't have to be one way that they can learn or one way they can be assessed or whatever. The technology definitely makes that process easier. It's hard to manage as a classroom teacher when you have so many different things going on. So universal design for learning got me thinking along those lines, and also thinking about how I can help students again, sort of think about their knowledge, synthesize their knowledge. Even though they take different paths, can they arrive at the same place? And this is a process that you can see this concept map that I created with one of my classes this last year. But I've been doing more of this, where we get together as a class, we talk about the ideas that they got, we map them out, we think about collectively, what did we really learn? So in conclusion, I would say this program represents a lot of professional growth for me. I produced a lot of evidence of competency in lots of different areas, and really for me it's about a long-term vision. So I'm thinking ahead 3 to 5 years. What do I want my classroom to look like? How can I take all that I've learned and really make it real and make it the experience of students and be successful? Some of the main opportunities that I see are just to use this knowledge to inform others. I'm familiar with the research, I've done some work with the planning process, so hopefully I can facilitate some of those discussions around how we bring about student-centered teaching and how we use the technology that we have, the great technology resource of one-to-one computers in my case. Secondly is just a willingness to try new strategies. I've definitely tried a bunch of things. Some have worked, some have totally failed, but I think we can't really learn unless we try, and then just adjust based on feedback from students and thinking about how classes are going and really evaluating if there are benefits. There are definitely things I've done where I've just decided I don't know that it's really better than some other method, so let's just change direction. Lastly is just comfort with technology. I know how to learn the technology now, even new applications or new software, whatever it is. I find that I'm much more comfortable getting into it much quicker to learn it compared with teachers who aren't as familiar. And of course I also have a much bigger toolbox, so just been exposed to lots of different online tools through my MET program. The big challenges are implementation and time. Making these shifts, going towards student-centered education, using the technology in a really integrated way takes a change in student culture. A lot of students are perfectly happy with teacher just telling them what to do, and they fill the sheet out and turn it in and they get it, a good grade, and that's kind of the end of it. Student-centered learning is really a lot more about rigor and accountability. It's more difficult in a lot of ways for students. They really have to think, they really have to understand. They can't just turn things in and get a good grade, or alternatively just sort of stay under the radar and that's it. So there's definitely a change there. Also just a change in school culture. What's normal in our school, what's regular. On the time side of things, there's a lot of great ways that technology can use to assess students, especially thinking about authentic types of assessment. I think they can be really successful, but it's also really challenging when you have 100 students and you have, you're trying to manage all these different things, trying to get things evaluated, trying to provide real feedback, which is an effective tool. Also balancing then the content versus the skills, and in the case of science, thinking about I'm teaching science, but I'm also being asked to teach literacy. And then on top of that, now I'm adding more and more of these technology tools, which you also have to teach students. If you're using an LMS, you have to teach them how to use it. You have to show them what you need them to do. So I'd like to thank you for listening to this video, and also thank all of the people who've been involved in this process, particularly my family. There's a more recent picture from this summer at Yellowstone National Park. But it's been a great journey, and I look forward to taking what I've learned and using it to be a better teacher. Thank you.